Sometimes the best of intentions can go awry. Such as this, which I had made towards the end of last year in 2022. 60 books that I wanted to read by the end of 2023, and I've made a little progress on it. But sometimes those plans go out the window. Because we all know here on BookTube, we are nothing if not willing and able to be influenced by ideas of other people. And the more I've considered this particular idea, the more I've been drawn to it. So when I picked those books, my thought was, well, I'm going to pick 60 different authors so that I can explore broadly. Try a bunch of samples along the way and see what I like. But of course, none other than Steve Donahue wants to do something called a year of favorites, where you are reading authors that are your favorites and read a little more deeply in them. I had said, well, sure, I would be game to do that if this idea gains traction. And he kind of scoffed at that. Well, of course, you're going to only chase it if it gets popular and gains traction. And, he meant it in the most lighthearted way, with the best of intentions. But it got me to thinking, why would I need to wait and see if other people are doing it? Michael K. Vaughan, for instance, is doing an Edgar Rice Burroughs deep dive. It's his favorite author, or one of them. And he's reading everything that guy owns, or has written. He's still doing his Stephen King deep dive. And so rather than saying, well, I'll just read everything that's by somebody, I took a look at my shelves and said, okay, what do I have on here that is an author that I know I've enjoyed something by a lot, that I want to read more of? And that led me to pulling off 2 stacks of books. So let's talk about the authors that I'm going to be exploring, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot more fun than trying to bounce all over the place, because it's going to let me just kind of focus in and really get some enjoyment on some authors I've enjoyed, at least have enjoyed in the past. It'll give me some kind of a focus on, if somebody were to ask and say, hey, David, I'd like to send you a book. Well, then I'll have an idea. It'll be one of these authors. Okay, you can send me this. I don't have this yet. Something along those lines. Because some of these authors I have more than others. Some of them I won't need new books in order to have stuff to read. The one mention I'm going to give that I'm not holding anything up because I don't have anything ready is Robin Hobb, The Realm of the Elderlings. I read the first 2 trilogies, and next up is the Tawny Man trilogy. I don't have any Tawny Man. I don't have any of the Dragon Keepers or the Rainwild Chronicles or whatever it is. The next one, it's a 2-book. I think I've got an ebook on my Nook app for the first of those, but I do have the first book of the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, which comes after those other 2 series. So I've got gaps there for Robin Hobb before I can pick her back up. That's okay. If I don't get to Robin Hobb this year, I'm going to have no shortage still. I have no shortage. So let's talk about some of the authors I've got here. So the last one I pulled, and this is kind of the order I pulled them, is Alfred Bester. So I read Stars of My Destination about a year and a half ago and absolutely loved it. So I hear fantastic things about The Demolished Man. And then I have Deceivers, which it says here, this is the true successor to The Stars of My Destination. Now, whether or not it's anything like it, I don't care. I absolutely enjoyed it. I've wanted to explore more Alfred Bester. I've had these on my shelf. I've been wanting to read them. I haven't. This is a very good example of why this is a great idea, because this is going to let me say, you know what, I'd like to grab Alfred Brester and, read a pair of books back to back by him. One that I just finished earlier this year, A Hero Born by Jin Young. I was gifted the ebooks for books 2, 3, and 4 in the series. Guess what? I'm going to explore the rest of that series because I absolutely love this. It's already going to be a strong contender for one of my favorite books this year. Although, who knows? I'm going to be reading a lot of authors I already love, so yeah. That might end up being really low on the list in comparison. So we've got... There's a whole stack here. Because this is the author that I need to be doing a deep dive read on. Ray Bradbury. All of these are ones I still need to read. Plus, I need to revisit Something Wicked This Way Comes, because I haven't read it in over a decade. I've got Bradbury Speaks, Cat's Pajamas, Dinosaur Tales, Toynbee Convector, Quicker Than the Eye, Sing the Body Electric, One More for the Road, R's for Rocket, S is for Space, and then the two that I couldn't see from the reflection there, Long After Midnight, and the Now and Forever. I've got a lot of Bradbury that I can read. I can do a Bradbury a month almost. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. I can do Bradbury a month because if I count Something Wicked This Way Comes, there's 12 right there. Boom. Ray Bradbury, one a month. What better way to celebrate each and every month than by having some Ray Bradbury to read? Of course, Robert E. Howard. Oh my goodness, I'm loving Robert E. Howard. There's still a Conan book I still haven't read. I need to get around to that. But I also have an ebook of, I believe, Cull. And I'm drawing a blank on what the other one is. I think I have one other that on an ebook that I can read. So why not dive into Robert E. Howard and maybe read a couple of the Elspreg de Camp ebooks of Conan. Just try them out. I'm sure they're not good. I've heard that they're not great. But, depends on who you ask. Someone like Michael would probably tell you they're great. I only grabbed one, but I definitely want to at least, not necessarily all of Burroughs, but at the very least the Barsoom series of 11 books. This one's next. I read book 3 back in November and was itching to get back to it, and it's taken 2 months and I haven't gotten back to it yet. So why not? We have Bernard Cornwell. I picked up Sharp's Rifles with Christmas money, book 1 in the Sharp series, and I've got Enemy of God and Excalibur, books 2 and 3 of the... I'm drawing a blank. Warlord Chronicles. I loved book 1 back in 2021. Why haven't I read books 2 and 3 yet? They're right here. And by choosing to do favorites, it's going to let me get into there. I would love to pick back up the Saxon Tales. I only have book 4 on my shelf. It's either 4 or 5. But years ago, I had listened to audiobooks of books, I think 1 through 8 or 1 through 9, and I think there's 13 now. I've got more Uhtred that I can go and enjoy. One of the ones that, and now we come to the last 4 here. These 4 are probably the ones, in addition to Bradbury, that had me most desiring to do this as I was thinking about it. So it should come as little surprise that Dan Simmons, I want to finish the Hyperion Cantos, but there's more than just that. I have Ilium and Olympos, this duology right here, which has got ties in with the wonderful Greek classics by Homer that I just reread last year with the Eclectic Book Club. I would love to read these while those are still somewhat fresh in my mind. And I have something completely different by Dan Simmons, The Fifth Heart, which is a Sherlock novel. And I know Dan Simmons has written so much else and has dabbled in a lot of other areas that I would love to read as much of a sampler of Dan Simmons as I could get. But those 5 books are a fantastic starting point. And of course, we have Harlan Ellison. So these are the only 2 Ellison books I own that I haven't read yet. This is Ellison in Wonderland, and then this is the Tor Double that I just got back, or just got from Scott Danielson. So Run for the Stars, which also has Jack Haldeman, not Joe Haldeman. I forgot to grab it. But Haldeman is also one of the big ones that has been making me want to do this, because I read the entire trilogy of the Forever War and loved it. I've only got 2 other things by Haldeman on my shelf. One is Dealing with Futures, or Dealing in Futures, which is the next short story collection I'm going to start reading, because I'm trying to get through a short story a day. I just finished one today, and it ended with Joe Haldeman, which had me, when I was considering what to grab next, I was like, well, I want to read this one because it's more Haldeman. And All My Sins Remembered is a book that I just pulled off my shelf. I spent probably 10-15 minutes trying to figure out what I'm going to pick up and read next, and ended up being like, you know what, I'm really itching to read more Haldeman. And that's why I decided, you know what, let's just make this official. This is what I need to do. I need to scrap that list and just read what is calling my name. And these authors are calling my name. And we have one more. You can probably guess who it is. It wouldn't be a favorite author video without Tolkien. This here is Rover Random. This is a skinny little thing. I've never read this. I haven't read the Father Christmas letters. I've never owned the Father Christmas letters. Mr. Bliss would probably be a fun kid's book for my son if I got my hands on a copy of that. I've read most of what he's put out at some point in time. I wouldn't be opposed to rereading some of those things. Potentially the Silmarillion again later this year. But the big one is this right here, The History of Middle-earth. That's volumes 1, 2, 3. It has all 12 in here. Now, once upon a time, I read the Book of Lost Tales Part 1. I have not gotten back to this. That's 11 right there. Add in Rover Random. That's 12. I mean, technically, I just finished the Fall of Numenor, so that would make 13. Baker's Dozen Tolkien. Heck yeah, man. That's a great reading year right there with nothing else considered. So, is this all I'm going to be reading? No. I'm not going to restrict myself to just this. I'll still give myself the freedom to mood read. But by and large, these are the authors that are calling my name that I'd like to dive in more, to dig deeper on what they have to offer. I still want to read Tale of the Genji this year. I'll probably want to follow that up with one of the things I picked up with that Christmas money. Shogun by James Clavell. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about this lately. It's big, but that shouldn't stop me from wanting to read it. And of course, if I enjoy it, there's all these other volumes right here. It's the Asian Saga. There's 6 of them. If one goes good, why wouldn't I want to read the others? So there you go. We have a year of reading favorites. And I'm not going to force anybody to join me. This is not conditional. It is, I'm going to want to do this. Because this is what is really calling my name right now. So even if you don't feel an urge to do it, I'd love to hear from you. Who some of those authors would be that would be the ones that you would choose if you were to do a deep dive into a couple or a dozen of your favorite authors. You know, whether they're ones that are established favorites that have been that way for a long time, like Tolkien and Bradbury have been for me, or whether they're ones that are new favorites, like Dan Simmons has been for me, Alfred Bester, Joe Haldeman, 2 years ago. I didn't know who the heck they were. I had never read anything by any of them. And now they're among my absolute favorite authors, Harlan Ellison. And I'm hoping to run into at least one or two brand new ones that I'll want to dive deeper in. I feel really strongly about Julian May. I've got a quartet of her books, plus one other, I think Blood Trillium, on my shelf that I've been putting off reading. Steve Donahue strongly recommends it. So I'll probably dive into that, and that will probably lead into a string of reading Julian May. So there you go. It'll be fun. I'm going to stop this, start uploading it, and go start reading some Joe Haldeman before I go to bed. So thank you, BookTube. Have a great